June is National Homeownership Month. Did you know that the rate of homeownership in the 1940s was around 40%, whereas today we enjoy a homeownership rate of over 65%? Now, one of the things that caused that was the Great Depression in the 1930s, because that ushered in the passage of the National Housing Act, which created the FHA loan, which we all know its purpose is to make credit more available for lending and refinancing, because today with an FHA loan, the down payment requirement is 3.5%, whereas before the National Housing Act in the 1930s, you would have to put down a significant amount of money, and there was no regulation in terms of what that would look like. You'd go to your bank and say, hey, I want to buy Joe's house down the street, and you'd make whatever deal the bank was willing to make with you, and there was no government insurance on the program until the passage of the National Housing Act and the creation of the FHA. Now, one of the challenges, of course, is that that FHA loan, between the time that it was created in the 1930s up to the Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968, less than 2% of FHA loans were issued to non-white families in our country. So although we saw the rate of homeownership increase from 40% to over 65% nationwide, what we saw is that the rate of homeownership among people of color in our communities has still sort of lagged far behind the rate of homeownership among white families. So that's something that we can all do to create better outcomes. June is also Pride Month, and while the LGBTQ+ community comprises at least 6 to 7% of the U.S. population, in terms of home ownership, in the 2022 National Association of Realtors Profile of Home Buyers and Home Sellers says that the LGBTQ+ community represents about 4% of home buyers last year. Now, those were folks that were willing to share and be open in terms of how they identify, because as we know, everyone in this community is not identifying themselves in that community. And what's interesting is that over time, what we see is not more people that are in the LGBTQ+ community. What we see is more acceptance of people within that community, as well as people who are willing to stand out and admit and say that this is who I am. And that's what Pride Month is really all about. Because the reality is that when we go and look at, for example, I'm left-handed. I'm kind of left-handed, but not exactly. So if we look at, if I were left-handed in 50 years ago, I would have been forced to be right-handed. So although the population of left-handed people in the United States is around 10%, the reality is not that there's more left-handed people today than there were 50 years ago. It's just we're allowed to be left-handed today when we weren't able to do so before. So what we have to do is make sure that we're allowing everyone to be themselves. And Article 10 of the Realtor Code of Ethics was amended in the mid-2010s to prevent discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. So for whoever is calling St. Louis home, I've got some great ideas on how to make it a fantastic month here in our beautiful city. If you want to kickstart June, you can get up and go every other Saturday morning to the Gateway Arch National Park, everyone, with Sunrise Boot Camp at Keener Plaza. It's one of the many recurring series. It's one of the many recurring series that is free thanks to the Gateway Arch Park Foundation and their mission to bring innovative, fun, and accessible programs to downtown St. Louis. This Sunday is the second annual Uphill Battle. This ride is going to be TrailNet's most challenging ride yet, and that's the point. And I'll tell you, if you have not gotten involved with TrailNet, if you like bicycling, if you know what bicycling is, get involved. Check it out. It's an amazing organization. I happen to serve on the board, and it's a wonderful community that they look to build in terms of people, in terms of making biking public transportation and walking a way of life. It's a great way to get out and get physical, meet people, and have a good time on the trails. So don't be scared, though, because these routes run through some of Missouri's most beautiful parks and wildlife areas. It'll be a fantastic experience for sure. Now, Twang Fest is a nonprofit grassroots music festival presented by the local brewery Urban Chestnut. and it's bringing some great live music of all kinds: Americana, folk, pop, rock, and more. You know, sometimes people ask me, Nate, what is your favorite genre of music? I don't really have one because I love all music. Not a huge fan of country music, I gotta be honest with you. But other than that, I love all kinds of music. In fact, I can't wait to going to see Paramore here pretty soon. They're coming to St. Louis. It's going to be fantastic. I'm also looking forward to seeing Morris Day and the Time next week when they come. I'm going to Chicago to see Jodeci. You know, I've got all kinds of folks that I love to see when they come to town or when they come somewhere near because I just love music. That is for sure. Anyway, back to Twang Fest. It's going to be at Off-Broadway the 7th through the 10th. The St. Louis Shakespeare Festival will be performing 12th night for the 2023 season, part of the Shakespeare in the Park over on the east side of Art Hill. And I'll tell you, the St. Louis Shakespeare Festival is wonderful with the work that they do in the community. Not only do they have this magnificent Shakespeare in the Park series throughout the year, but they also have Shakespeare Festival in the Streets where they visit neighborhoods all over St. Louis and deliver these wonderful concerts and performances so that it really works to make Shakespeare accessible to everyone, whether you want to go to the park or not. And it's all free. They do amazing work, for sure. So check them out. And even if Shakespeare isn't for you, there's other things that you can do for sure. Because it's officially Muni season again, and this year you'll be able to catch plays like Beauty and the Beast, West Side Story, and Rent. Do you realize how fortunate we are here in St. Louis to have an amazing venue like the Muni, to have fantastic, to have those open air performances all summer long? And it's going to be a wonderful time having world-class talent come to St. Louis to entertain us. Speaking of Forest Park, Saturday the 17th, we've got the Juneteenth Caribbean Heritage Festival, and it's going to have you walk through history. There'll be live music, there'll be entertainment, there'll be a noonday prayer, there'll be delicious food. I mean, it's going to be so awesome. Also, for another Juneteenth festival, you can head over to Harris Stowe State University, and they've got an amazing festival that's going to be taking place as well. Again, plenty of music, plenty of history, food, people, community. It's going to be a wonderful time for sure. Sunday is Father's Day. Euripides said that to a father growing old, nothing is dearer than a daughter. And I've got two of them, and I'll tell you, I love every bit of them. They're amazing, and there is nothing like being a father to daughters. So whether you've got daughters or sons, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. At the end of the month, spotlighting the diverse, dynamic LGBTQ+ community is one of St. Louis's signature events, Pride Fest. The celebrations will culminate in the Grand Pride Parade, traveling down Market Street on the 25th, and it's all presented by Edward Jones. As Maya Angelou said, the ache for home lives in all of us, the safe place where we can go as we are and not be questioned. Whatever you decide to do this month, let's work together and make sure that there is room for a home in St. Louis for everyone. Take care.